But isn't that how we respond in life generally? Maybe our space is our feelings, our thoughts, our beliefs, our religion, whatever it is. And when people invade it, our first thing is to kind of back up, and then we take it for so long, and then all of a sudden we take a stand, and if we're not careful, people get hurt. And sometimes it's the people we live with, and sometimes it's the people we live next to, and sometimes it's people we work with, and then it becomes the people we used to work with. Because they're still working and we're not. And it's crazy. We've got to be careful. Look at what happened in America just this week. There was a guy who decided to commit suicide by cop, as they call it. And he's mad. And he was really, really hacked off. Now, this wasn't a 28-year-old kid on a drug binge. He wasn't a 48-year-old guy going through midlife crisis. He wasn't a 68-year-old guy that was depressed because his 401 tanked and he just retired. This was an 88-year-old man. That's older than anybody who attends our church. An 88-year-old man who decides that he is so angry that other people deserve to die. And so the guy went to the museum in Washington, decided he was going to start killing people because of hatred. He was mad about something that A, he can't control, and B, he can't change. And he's just mad, and he's so mad that innocent people should die, and so that his name should be broadcast across the world as a guy who went and died for what he believed in. I got news for you. Hate's been around a long time. A long, long time. The earliest we know about it, there were two brothers. And the two brothers were cool. As long as they kept moving around, they were nomads. And that was God's plan for them, was to be nomads, because God owned the land. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it. And they had no problems until one guy said, excuse me, this is mine. This right here, this is mine. Don't come over here. Well, the brother didn't understand because somehow the rules got changed. And one of his animals wandered over there, made this guy mad, made him so mad he killed his brother. Okay, hatred has been around since about page 4. Okay, this isn't a surprise. But I want you to know this. No matter what you're mad about, you can find other people to be mad with you. You can go to the internet, you can find millions of people who will agree with you. You can be mad that today's Sunday, and there's somebody somewhere that agrees with you. Okay? And when you add to the world's struggle, the financial struggle that's going on in our country and in the world right now, when you add to that the already uneasy tensions of social problems and unemployment and food, and now I got political pressure, and now I got all this other pressure, people, I'm going to tell you, it's going to continue to get worse. Violence will continue to grow because when people are desperate, desperate people do desperate things, like walk into the museum and decide people are going to die. And that is going to be the trend until things turn the corner, because there's already enough tension. And you add to it the boiling part of not having food and not having enough money, and people will go do crazy things. That's just human nature. But this dude was so mad. He's angry at people. He hated people he'd never met. How do you do that? But then he died. Or he hasn't died yet, last I heard. But he killed somebody else, just doing his job. And all those other people watched it, saw it, all because of anger. You and I are taken advantage of when we're prejudiced against. And all of us are. And you can't let it eat you up. I've been prejudiced against. I've had speaking engagements. I've had events that would call me and tell me, we'd have you come speak, but we can't because you're a man. Excuse me? That's sexism, is it not? Well, it was a women's convention, but that's a whole other issue. But I've had other events say, well, we already have 3 men on the schedule. I'm sorry, you can't come speak. That's the same thing. I had a public school offer me a chance to come speak, and then the principal said, oh, well, we'd have you come speak, but you're not Native American. And I said, well, yes, I am, but you never asked. That's racism. I have people that won't let me do what I want to do because I'm too old. I have people that prejudice against me because I'm short. They won't let me play in the NBA. At what point do we say we've all been prejudiced against in some way, shape, or form? Okay? And the reality is, I mean, I go to places and I get introduced to people. Oh, this is Pastor Tom. And all of a sudden people change. And they become this chameleon. fakeish person. And I'm like, stop it. I have a guy, there's a friend of mine, and I'll never tell you this dude's name. But I went out and played golf with him, and the guy's an amazing golfer. And I know for a fact that he is not a heterosexual. I know for a fact. And on the 16th hole, after the entire day of playing, he looked at me and said, so what do you do? And I told him. I said, I'm a pastor. And he went, oh, I'm glad you didn't tell me that earlier. I'm like, why? I still like you. Well, it's no big deal. It's your issue. You know, we all got them. Whatever it is. And the guy's still my friend. We're still playing golf together. But that, I didn't tell him on hole number 1 what I did because I didn't want him to act any different. I wanted him to be himself. Because he needs to be free to be who he is too. And the reality is, we all get prejudiced against. It's not just a black thing or a Hispanic thing or, you know, an Asian thing or a white thing. It all goes every which way. We all got our prejudices. You're too this, you're too that, you're not enough this, you're not enough that, you don't have enough this, you got too much that. And next thing you know, we've created these categories that nobody can measure up to. We've all faced it. Every one of us. But the question is, what do we do with it? What do we do with being offended? Those of you that have been around a while, you know that I don't like journaling. Journaling is for people that have way too much time. Okay? I don't like journaling, and it's because it just doesn't fit my personality. I don't like to write. Okay? That's just not me. But every once in a while, I will journal, and usually it's when I'm in a time of my life where there's significant transition or a lot of pain. And I was cleaning out my office over here in the little house, because I do that like once a year. Here's one of my habits. So I'm cleaning out my office, and I'm moving these books around, and I come across a journal. And at one point, I was being interviewed by Fellowship of Christian Athletes to be the chaplain for the PGA Tour. And I had been out on the road doing it a couple, 2 or 3 times. And so I was journaling through the process, and just so I could have record of conversations and how I was praying and what God was telling me and what I was learning. And it was about 33 or 34 days worth in this journal, and so I started reading it. But in the middle of that process was also an incredibly painful event. And I'm reading through this thing, and it was really weird to me how I started to feel some of the uneasiness and some of the hurt again, and some of the major offense. And as I got to the end of the journal, the last page was about forgiveness. And I was reading this book called Wild at Heart, reading my Bible, and kind of combining the two, journaling about all this stuff. And the last 2 pages of the journal are, here's the list of people I need to forgive. And it went on and on and on and on. And the weird part is, I don't even remember some of those people. I mean, I literally read names and went, who's that? I don't remember that guy. But at that time, the pain was so significant, I didn't think I'd ever get over it. I didn't think I'd ever get past it. But that was either 4 or 5 years ago. And it took a long time. But the sting of the pain, it's like being really bad sunburned, you know, where you just touch it, and after a while it's okay. But there for a while, the pain was so deep and so significant, I didn't think I'd ever get past it. So I found that journal, and I was tempted to rip the pages out of it and throw it away, because you know what? You gotta move on. You gotta move on. And so rather than make my list and check it twice, maybe it should be make my list and delete it once. Just once. Because if you delete it and send it to the trash and then empty your trash can, you know, it's gone. It's gone for good. So I don't know who's on your list or how many lists you're on. And that's the hard part, is to go around and ask, am I on your list? Am I one of the people that, do I need to offer you that I'm sorry? Because that's hard. It's really, really hard. And it's not just an eye for an eye. In fact, that's not what Jesus was saying. Jesus is trying to say, man, you cannot retaliate other than with grace.